what I would always tell people over the last 15 years, when the market does go down, they ask, should we sell? The market's down. I said, housing market was down in 2008, 40, 50%. Did you sell your house? They're like, no, why would I sell my house? Well, it's the same thing.
Welcome to the Financial Foundations Podcast, your gateway to the fascinating realm of finance, brought to you by Base Wealth Management. In this show, we delve deep into the world of money, guided by seasoned experts who will unravel the complexities of finance and provide you with invaluable insights and practical advice. Now, here are your hosts, Dustin Taylor and Alex Wolf.
Welcome back to Financial Foundations, brought to you by Base Wealth Management. I'm your host, Dustin Taylor.
I'm your co-host, Alex Wolf, certified financial planner.
And today we are joined again by financial advisor Kyle Howell. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, Kyle. Welcome back.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the invite back.
Today we're talking about behavioral finance. Alex, what exactly is behavioral finance?
So behavioral finance is a study that was done to understand some of the psychological components behind financial decisions we make as humans, and talking about some of the biases that we fall trapped to.
What are some of those biases?
So the ones that they go over in the study, we're going to dive into, but on a surface level, like confirmation bias, recency bias, loss aversion, and familiarity bias.
Yeah, loss aversion is a big one that I run into a lot.
Yeah, so let's unpack what is loss aversion. So this is when an investor places a greater weighting on the concern for losses versus gains. So what does that mean? So when you think about a holding that a client purchased and it's now at a loss, so it's gone down in value, but they're so hesitant to sell that position because they're fearful or they don't want to admit that they made a bad mistake investing in that company, and they really want to wait until it appreciates, and they convince themselves that it'll come back. You run into this, Kyle?
Yeah, sure. I say if you're investing, you really should be investing for the long term anyway, right? So when we see a loss in our accounts, it's certainly hard to look at. You got reds and greens on your screen there. So you got your greens that are positive, your reds that are negative. Obviously, you want to see all green, but it's very hard to do all the time, right? So when we look at, I like to call it sunk cost fallacy, right? Think of the change machine you're putting your quarters into to get some more quarters, right? And you just keep putting quarters in and quarters in and quarters in and quarters in, and it just sometimes it falls the right way and sometimes it doesn't. So we need to get to a point where when we see that loss, that we're not getting into that sunk cost fallacy. We're just keep buying more and hoping that it comes back. We want to figure out a way to maybe dispose of that investment one way or another.
Yeah, good point. And if it's in a taxable account, you should, be thinking about, can I take a tax loss on that position? Right. And then is there a better investment that I can put whatever I've left in that into that will perform better over the long run?
So how do advisors or planners help people overcome these, thoughts or feelings?
It can be a struggle because you want to coach them, but obviously you don't want to make them feel bad. Because they're not alone. These are things that many of us fall trapped to just from basic human behavior. So I really find coaching them, and it's not necessarily just pointing it out, but there are some times when you have to have a hard conversation with them and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing and what I recommend and why. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to, the long-term plan, right? We don't want to change our investment philosophy based off of, what's going on in the short term. So we do want to look at it from a long-term perspective.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that in one of our previous episodes with the election year. Obviously, do you have any new insights or things to add to that?
Not necessarily, but that does play into one of the biases that we mentioned earlier, which is recency bias. I feel like there's a lot of political topics that we all fall into when it comes to recency bias. And that's where recent events or something plays out, and we think that's more likely to occur because it's on the top of our mind.
There's also, I think, maybe even, especially during an election year, herd mentality. Can you speak about that? I think a lot of people know what it is, but just in case they don't.
Yeah, so herd mentality is like an animal instinct that we have, where like if we see other people doing it, we join the herd and like, oh, they must be right. Or even on the flip side, if you see a lot of people not doing something, like, oh, there's a reason that they must not be doing that. Or if everyone's like bringing it full circle to like investing or planning, if everyone's putting money into this new hot stock, I should be putting money into it also. But you might have missed that train. You might be investing in it too late. Kyle, what do you...
Yeah, totally agree. Not that we're giving investment advice today, but you look at the NVIDIA stock and what it's done, over the last year and a half, and really you go back 5 years and it's skyrocketed, so people want to get into that next hot stock just like that one.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's one example. Not stock advice, as Kyle mentioned, but an example of a recent security that has shot up that we hear clients asking us about or calling in to see if we own it.
I also feel like the media kind of feeds into a lot of like the doom feeling of how the market's performing and stuff like that. What do you recommend, Kyle, for people? Do you just think that they should ignore those articles that say we're going to hit a recession or whatever the news might be?
I've had this conversation many times. Turn the TV off. Turn the radio off. Just turn it off. This doesn't pertain to you, long term. If you're 55 years old and you're still 10, 15 years away from retirement, or even if you're in retirement, your portfolio is supposed to be set up for your risk tolerance, not based off of what's happening, economically, politically, has nothing to do with whatever is going on in the short term.
So ignore the noise and just focus on your plan.
100%.
With your
100%. Ignore the noise.
Kyle, I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one. And in this era where we have so much media and information at our fingertips on, the phone and on TV, it's important to know when you're falling trap into one of these and to separate the actual factual news from some of the noise that we hear constantly. So that way we make proper, informed, unemotional decisions when it comes to your plan and your investments.
Yeah, we have to remove the emotion for sure.
Okay, so how does working with an advisor or planner help?
Kyle briefly touched on this earlier, and it's having a proper investment plan, financial plan that you lean into when you start hearing a lot of noise and a lot of bad information's coming out, and people naturally get a little scared or timid, but it's important to be invested appropriately from the get-go. So that way, when things start to get a little shaky or volatile, you know that you're going to be okay.
I go back to, I wasn't even in the industry in 2008 when the market was going crazy. I came in the year after, but I had a lot of conversations based off of what happened in '08. And what I would always tell people over the last 15 years, when the market does go down, they ask, should we sell? The market's down. I said, housing market was down in 2008, 40, 50%. Did you sell your house? They're like, no, why would I sell my house? Well, same thing. You don't sell your investments just because they've lost value. You still own the same amount of shares. They're just devalued. At some point in time, if we look at history and past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but over time, we're going to make those losses back at some point, and we should see some growth on the back end of that as well.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I might have to steal that housing example. But if you're invested in great companies, like is Apple going away? Is Amazon going away? There's going to be companies that are disruptors in those industries. But if you have a great solid core of investments, they're going to come back.
So I think that a lot of what you're saying here kind of highlights the value of a financial advisor. Obviously, there's the wealth management portion and stuff, but we did a piece recently, like a written piece recently, talking about the value of a financial advisor. And a lot of it has to do with bouncing ideas off the advisor and kind of talking you off the ledge and making sure that you stay invested when you should. You have anything to add to that?
I think the only thing I would add is that financial advisor or planner can help you remove the emotion from it. Being in the industry, we've seen a lot of different economies and business cycles over the years. And we know like how to position the portfolio. If it's someone who's more timid and risk averse to begin with, we know the right types of investments that will help them be able to still sleep at night.
And when I look at it from, a client advisor standpoint, I position myself as your personal CFO. You're the CEO of your household, right? What does every president CEO have next to them in a corporate situation? They have a CFO. They bounce ideas off of each other. So if you want to think of it from a sports analogy, I'm going to be the head coach. You're going to be the quarterback. I'm going to call the play. You can change the play if you want, but at the end of the day, I'm the one telling you what to do. You have to go out and do it.
So Alex, what do you think is the biggest reason that people make bad financial decisions?
I really think it all comes down to emotion and making quick reactions before kind of letting things settle and seeing how it's going to play out. I always tell myself in life in general, not even just when it comes to like the markets and investments, is things are never as great as it seems and they're never as bad as it seems. They're always somewhere in the middle, but kind of maintaining like a levelness about it and removing some of the emotions and taking a step back before reacting. Like when bad news comes out about like a company or something and it's affecting your portfolio, do you just sell it immediately or wait to hear like what happened? Like what truly caused it to come down? Or is it ultimately affecting your portfolio? Or are you still 10 years from retirement? Like what's the ultimate goal in making sure that you have the right plan in place?
Yeah, and I would really say too is how you were raised and how you grew up. Some people have better habits than others do, right? Some people have great saving habits. Some people like to spend money, put things on a credit card. So there's a fine line in how you were raised and how that affects you as an adult with money.
I think what Kyle wants to say is he's a matchmaker, and if you are a spender, you should marry a saver.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that we pretty much hit this point home. And if there was one kind of overarching thought, in my opinion, it would be that you should ignore the noise, take emotion out of the equation when it comes to your finances. And that's difficult to do. So that's, a big value that financial advisor can provide. One of their maybe unclaimed services is providing peace of mind. Alex, what are your closing thoughts here?
Yeah, I definitely agree that having someone to draw up that play, as Kyle mentioned, but ultimately you're still in charge. And I always make the analogy that we're like a guide helping you with the decisions, and we're going to help lay out like what are the pros and the cons of doing something and let you know before you make that decision.
Yeah, I love just fielding phone calls from clients and them bouncing off ideas instead of trying to make them on their own. Just last week, I had somebody call and ask me about paying their mortgage off early. So the little tidbits like that, just be taking the emotion out of it, best way to go as much as possible if you can.
All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode. If you'd like more financial advice, you can visit our website at basewealthmanagement.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or subscribe to this podcast. I'm Dustin Taylor.
I'm Alex Wolf.
And happy listening.
We hope the expertise shared by our hosts, Dustin Taylor and Alex Wolf, has left you feeling empowered and informed. If you're eager for more financial wisdom, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, stay sharp in the world of finance.